Never tell them your name. That's a rule I've followed for years when investigating the paranormal. And here's the strange thing. Nobody ever taught it to me. I've worked with other paranormal investigators. Nobody has ever questioned the rule when I've explained it. Some have even gone on to adopt it themselves. But recently, I've realised something. Where the hell did I get the idea from? So, I went looking for the oldest version of my rule that I could find. And I couldn't find it. What I found instead was almost the exact opposite. The Egyptian deities, Isis and Ra, the Testament of Solomon, Rumpelstiltskin, Tom Tit Tot, fairy and fae naming traditions, Fraser and the recorded name taboos. Again and again, I found the same idea. Knowing the other being's name gives you leverage. So perhaps my rule isn't really about ghosts at all. Perhaps somewhere along the way, I absorbed a much older human idea. That a name is a label. A name is access. Do I have historical evidence about that giving a ghost your name is dangerous? No. Am I going to start giving my name to things I can't see? Also, no. Because thousands of years of human folklore seem remarkably preoccupied with the idea that names have power. So, let's look at this from a more factual standpoint. And think about our own experiences for a moment. So, say your name's Dan. You've been called Dan all your life, by your friends, family, colleagues. But then you remember one time you were sitting in your room and your parents called out, "Daniel!" What was your immediate reaction? Because I know what mine was. Oh shit. Followed by quickly either what did I do or what didn't I do? Or occasionally, shit, I forgot to do X. See, the thing is now, well even now, 30-something years later, if someone calls out my full first name in the street, I can't help but look and check where it came from. And that demonstrates what I'm talking about. You don't need folklore to understand that words, and particularly names, can have power. A name can grab your attention. It can change your emotional state. It can make you react before you've even consciously thought about why. Does that mean a supernatural entity can use your name against you? No idea. But it does mean the underlying concept isn't quite as alien as it first appears. So, science has a fairly good explanation for why hearing your own name can cut through everything else around you. Fine. Point to science. But there's a problem. That explains why I react to my name. It doesn't explain why cultures, separated by centuries and sometimes enormous distances, kept returning to the idea that knowing a name gave one person, spirit, deity, or creature power over another. One of the sources I've linked in the description is some of the reading I've done while I'm trying to understand the why. So it's the UCL Digital Egypt translation of the story of the Egyptian deities Isis and Ra. And granted, this doesn't prove anything either way you slice it, but it did make me look at this rule of mine a little differently. So the translation of paragraph 5 goes on to say, "I am the son of the eldest, divine seed who came into being out of a god. I am the great one, son of the Great One. The Father devised the name. I have many names, many forms. He whose form is in every god, who is called Atum Horus Hekanu. My father and my mother told me my name, and I hid it from my children, in my body, to prevent it happening that a male or female magician strike against me. I went outside to see what I had made, and wander in the two lands which I had created. When something I do not recognize struck, it is not fire, it is not water. My heart is ablaze, body trembling, every limb under the effects of attack. And well, this made me think, if a deity is supposedly hiding his true name, not only from his children, but from others who might use magic against him, why? And this is where things got a little strange for me, personally. Because there's an idea I've had sitting in some dusty corner at the back of my head for years. And I'll be the first to hold my hands up and admit it. I don't know where it came from. Or at least I didn't when I started writing this. But it's something that has always felt fundamentally true to me. The idea that there are different kinds of names. In my head, there have always been three. A true name, one few will seldom know, one that supposedly holds true power over a person. A given name, your birth name. This is the one that I believe holds some power, but not all. Though, interestingly, it is also the one that appears to have the most support from science and psychology when we're talking about attention and automatic and autonomic responses. And then there's your taken name, or your use name. For most people, this might simply be a shortening of their given name. Most Daniels will go by Dan, most Benjamins will go by Ben, that sort of thing. And in my own little framework, this has always been the name that has held the least amount of power over you. Now, I need to be very clear here. I'm not presenting this three-name idea as ancient folklore. I couldn't find an ancient source that describes this exact system. And while researching this episode, I think I may have worked out why the idea was sitting in my head in the first place. Ursula K. Le Guin's Earthsea stories make a distinction between a true name and a use name. Knowing a true name can give you power over someone. A use name is what people generally know you by. And when I found that out, I had to stop for a moment, because I'm a fantasy nerd. I write fantasy. I've spent an unreasonable amount of my life reading mythology, folklore, and stories about magic. Is it possible that somewhere along the way I absorbed the idea of a true name and a use name, forgot where I got it from, and then shoved a given name in the middle because of my own experiences? Yeah. Actually, that's annoyingly plausible. And suddenly my three-name idea has become a lot less mysterious. True name, given name, taken or use name. Part folklore, part fantasy literature, and possibly part of my own brain trying to explain why hearing my full first name makes me immediately wonder what I've done wrong. So, fine. Another point to science. But I don't think that completely kills the question, because Le Guin didn't invent the broader idea that names can hold power. We've already gone back thousands of years and found the Egyptian deity Ra supposedly hiding his name because he feared it being used against him. And we find versions of the basic concept again and again. Different cultures, different creatures, different centuries. The details change, but the idea keeps coming back. Know the name, gain leverage. So, do I fully understand the reasons why? No. But can I make a decent, educated guess at about at least part of it? Well, as I mentioned earlier, we're beholden to our given names, often having a snap reaction to them. Now, psychology can offer explanations for that, whereas the name we choose to use, it's still dear to us. Often the one that we're called by most, but perhaps we have a slightly different relationship with it. And this is why I feel, and I emphasize the word feel here, because I'm not here to change your mind or your way of thinking. This is my belief, my opinion. But I feel that when investigating the paranormal or metaphysical, you should choose a name that you aren't deeply attached to. Not one to throw away at the end of each investigation. No, because if we are ever going to demonstrate that something paranormal is happening, then we need baselines. We need repeatable observations. And if something apparently intelligent begins responding to the same investigator, using the same name across multiple investigations, that's interesting. It doesn't prove that an entity followed you. It doesn't prove you're talking to the same thing. But it does give you a pattern that you can record, compare, and question. For a great example of the type of evidence I'm talking about, watch Ghost Trip Investigations video with Kalani Ghost Hunter on YouTube. The episode is called The House That Knocks Back. It's a fair way into the video, the specific experiment that I'm referencing, but I do recommend watching the whole video because the episode is fantastic. They also further experiment in the following episode from that one, or one of them. Also well worth checking out. So, about that experiment, essentially what they do is they end up utilising a spirit or a being or some paranormal force or entity to communicate over a distance that would take, in the UK, over an hour to travel. And yet they still get a response. In one site, at one place, point A, and then at point B, only mere seconds later. Don't want to spoil the episode for you, so I shan't go into much further detail, but seriously, go and watch those videos. I'll make sure the links are in the description. So, after all of this, am I still going to follow my rule? Yeah. But perhaps not exactly for the reasons I thought. I can't demonstrate that something unseen can use my name against me. I can't point to an ancient text that says, when investigating a haunted building, use a pseudonym. Believe me, I looked. But I can demonstrate that my name has significance to me. It can capture my attention. It can trigger an emotional response, and it identifies me in a way that very few words can. So if I'm standing in a dark room, attempting to communicate with something I can't see, can't identify, and can't demonstrate even exists, why would I give it something that I already know has power over my attention? Maybe that's superstition. Maybe it's just good operational discipline. And maybe, 30 years from now, we'll understand something about consciousness and identity that makes this entire conversation look painfully primitive. I don't know. It doesn't make it a ghost, but it certainly makes it worth another question.